Cool. Hey, everybody. I'm Mike Whitmore. This is Tim McDonald.
That would be me.
I'm the Director of Production Infrastructure and Operations for AWOL Studios and HuffPost Live. And Tim is our Community Manager for HuffPost Live. Thought it'd be nice to bring Tim along because this is going to be a lot about how you leverage your online audience into your webcasts. So I wanted to play a little video just introducing the platform first, just to give you a little overview of it. How many of you have seen HuffPost Live? And gotcha. So we'll introduce you to it a little bit right now.
We'll get about 50% of you to convert over now. So.
Now, with HuffPost Live, you're invited to be part of a different kind of conversation.
We want you to participate. This is not us talking at you, it's us talking with you.
I want to talk about
propaganda,
arranged marriage in the U.S.,
Pussy Riot, poverty and homelessness,
gun control,
the Middle East.
I think that this is where the conversation needs to change.
You're the kind of genius I wish was in Congress.
The fact of the matter, I think Barbara's point is the key point.
This is not just a video screen. It's really a platform for engagement.
We have so many comments streaming in right now. Please continue to keep them coming.
Be sure to check out the resource. The parallels being thrown around by Obama's critics. You'd think Tricky Dick was back in the White House, but the comparisons being drawn between...
If you look above me, you'll find our green rooms where you can see what stories are coming up, interact with the segment even before it goes live.
Click the Be an On-Air Guest button and join the conversation live.
I want to bring our community now.
Let's bring the community in. Just jump in anytime, ask each other questions.
How many women are going to stand up for their rights? You want to have this conversation?
Well, we'll have that.
Have the whole conversation. I am concerned about the cultural competence of our educators.
We are hosting a third-party presidential debate.
I think that by enacting the fair tax, I think you kick crony capitalism in the rear end.
This is so terrific.
This is very new and exciting.
You're watching. I just love you.
You're sniffing me.
You smell really good.
Talk to me, you pussy, and put that thing away. This thing is so random, but I kind of like it.
For the first time in my life, I have an opportunity to participate in social discussion.
I'm the new face of poverty, but to hear somebody else talk about it, I wasn't alone.
I've gone from a media consumer to now a media contributor.
This is what we would hope democracy would look like.
So cool.
This is innovation.
So we launched a little bit over 9 months ago.
HuffPost Live, you're invited
It's
to
on
be
loop.
part of a different kind of conversation.
We want you to...
So we launched a little over 9 months ago. We basically were given the task to build a live streaming network based on the Huffington Post as a real-time script. And the goal was creating the most social video experience possible. It wasn't an attempt to do TV on the web, nor merely a video network. It's more a web and mobile platform for engagement, as Roy said earlier in the video. Our premise is people are tired of being talked at. They want to be talked with. The news is no longer about a few people telling everyone else what happened. It's about everyone telling everyone what's happening right now. This shift from presentation to participation is what fuels HuffPost Live. Our approach put users front and center in the conversations we are having, speaking out on the issues that matter most to them on equal footing with our other guests, including newsmakers, celebrities, pundits, and experts.
And I think one of my favorite sayings that I've heard come out of Roy's mouth is HuffPost Live is not about breaking news, it's about breaking conversations. And I think that really just goes to our core of what HuffPost Live is all about. I think one of the things that we saw when we created HuffPost Live was on HuffPost.com we have over 250 million comments. 70% of those comments are in reply to other commenters. They're already talking with each other, so let's build a platform where we can encourage that to continue to grow. And so that's kind of how HuffPost Live was started. To date, we've had over 1 million comments on HuffPost Live in the 9 months we've been around. We've also brought in over 8,000 people to be on-air guests. And those people aren't just your talking heads. They're people that have real skin in the game, that people that want to come out and have a story to tell about what's going on to them personally, not just something that they saw or know about. And I think that's an important distinction of what we do.
Yeah. Consuming versus engagement was a big part of the decision to actually design the platform with the comments front and center. You know, a lot of times digital platforms now are creating you know, large video windows where people are just talking at you. We decided that since the community was, you know, front and center and we wanted them to be part of this platform, we shrunk the video screen down and increased the commenting size. And it's basically, you know, real-time conversations happening, and the hosts who are non-traditional, you know, TV hosts that are just talking at you, they really foster a conversation with the community. I'll talk a little bit more about technology and how we get these people in, as far as we use Google Hangouts and Skype and all those kind of tools in the studio. But Tim, you know, he has a good hold on, you know, the actual community engagement, and then he has some numbers around that as well. Yeah, so basically, when this started, if you see up there on the top, we have these green rooms, and that allows our communities to basically engage with the platform before the segment's even live. So we built our own custom content management system where we actually have, you know, our rundown of the day, and once a segment is created in our dashboard, a green room is created, and we share that via, you know, social networks, Twitter,
Facebook, Google+, on our site. If it's in relation to a relevant HuffPost.com article, we'll actually put a link to the upcoming segment in there as well.
Right, and so before the segment's even live, people can go into the green room, and under the video screen right there, we have something called a resource well. In the resource well, the producers and the APs and the people that are putting the segment together and pitching the segment actually add the links and all of the documentation and all of the reference material that they've collected to educate the community. So when they do come on and they are a guest on the program, they're actually more versed in the topic and they actually have things to say. So it's not a stale conversation. And so, you know, as you can see also on the right side, people can audition to be on the show, and what happens then is someone will just basically click on that button. They can record a little audition of themselves, and our producers will take that and vet them and then start talking to them, and actually Tim's team does all that.
Yeah, we've seen people actually leave video comments after a segment started, had a point of view that was missing in the conversation, been able to get that person screened on a Google Hangout, and entered into the Hangout that we're using within the span of about 4 minutes. So that's not a typical thing, but it is something that we're striving to do more and more of. We don't want this to be a call-in talk show where you're just calling in and asking a question and leaving. You need to be part of the conversation and really be on equal footing as everybody else involved. And so that's a huge component when people are pressing that button for us to be notified of it immediately, and our production staff looks at it. They're already aware of what's going on in the segment, know if we need that point of view, and then reach out to that person and try and get them involved in the segment that's actually happening.
Yeah, and so, you know, there are technical challenges to bringing, you know, people with limited bandwidth onto the program, and we have our APs basically, you know, they take anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour to actually prep each person in a Google Hangout or in a Skype room. We're trying to get that down. As the technology advances, things are getting better. You know, a lot of the reason we chose Google is the scalability of Google Hangouts and the ability to have more than 4 people or more than 3 or 4 people in an actual Hangout. Because we think that, you know, 5-6 people on average we have in there. We feel like that's a good amount of people to foster a good conversation. The audience engagement metrics confirm that we've created a unique social and community video offering that greatly enhances the way viewers can experience news. For instance, online viewers spend over 21 minutes per visit to HuffPost Live. 4 times the industry average for an online video consumption. And as Tim said before, they've left over 1 million comments in 9 months. So it's a very, very engaged audience.
Yeah, I think one of the important things too is, in addition to the comments actually being on the right side, you can leave both text and video comments, but our hosts are actually paying attention to what's happening on the segment and bring those comments, bring those videos onto the screen as part of the conversation. So even though they're happening off on the side, they're actually part of the segment. Not every single one, but we definitely bring in some that are adding questions that our production team didn't think of, adding a different point that what hasn't come up in the topic yet. And our commenters actually have a relationship with our host just as much as the people that are on the Hangouts participating in the segment.
And so streaming-wise, we stream 12 hours a day, 8 hours live from New York and 4 hours live from LA. And it's seamless, so it's a seamless switch over at 6 p.m. Eastern time. The challenges of that obviously are infrastructure. You need to have the right equipment to be able to stream, literally 24 hours a day. We stream for 12 hours live, and then in the evenings and the nighttime, we stream highlights. So we use Cisco media encoders, elemental encoders, and they're just running constantly. And we've built a very robust studio infrastructure. We have fully redundant systems in New York and LA. And part of the strategy of HuffPost Live is actual VOD content. It is a live streaming network, but the actual streaming network is basically like a content generating machine. So we produce anywhere from 90 to 150 clips a day that we then monetize throughout Huffington Post and AOL On with pre-roll. And that particular workflow is challenging as well because we have clip producers that are constantly clipping things out. They're constantly making highlight reels and publishing them to the web. I think when we started in August, the end of August, we had something like 21 million video views. And I think now we are upwards of 57 million video views.
I think it's 50, in March I think we had 51 million video views, which was up from 11 million, I believe it was in October.
Yeah.
So, and we've just seen that growth continue to escalate throughout that period.
Yeah. And as far as the technology goes and the studio infrastructure, there are times when it's difficult when, for example, Google Hangouts rolls out new features all the time. And there are times when your users, your participants, aren't necessarily that technical. And when they're not that technical, we actually have to sort of troubleshoot on the fly, during the broadcast. And it can be challenging sometimes, but we've come to a great place where we think that the conversation continues, uninterrupted. But there's always hitches. There's always things that you have to deal with.
Yeah, our team of producers and APs are basically screening almost every single guest that we have come on through a Google Hangout. So regardless of how great this technology is, it's still reliant upon the user that has it in their hands. We do a lot of hand-holding to make sure that these people, if they're not familiar with the technology, become familiar with it in a very short period of time. As Mike had mentioned, some of these could take literally 5 minutes to get somebody tested on a Google Hangout. I have personally been involved and seen others take over an hour to do the same exact thing that can be done with 5 minutes with somebody. So it's not something that is flawless. It's not something that we have down to an exact science, but we're getting closer every day in learning what the issues are, how to troubleshoot them, how to be able to ask questions in a way that tells us exactly what's happening with that user.
I'm actually going to play a little bit of this video right here.
And regardless of everything that we go through, we still end up.
We still have things like this happen, which I'm going to show you. It's kind of unbearable to watch more than a minute of this, so I'm just going to give you a little preview. Can we get the volume?
Muted. If you can just unmute at the top. You have to unmute. Are you there? I think you have to unmute at the top, right or left. I don't know if she... You know, we will come back to Jeanette. Unfortunately, we can't hear.
I think I've got you muted. Can you unmute yourself? Can you unmute yourself, Lara? I think you might be muted. We got to unmute you.
Erica, you're muted. I need you to unmute yourself. Top right. There you go.
Top right-hand button. Top right-hand corner.
very
George, I
difficult
think,
to watch
George, not
this.
only are you muted, but you're frozen.
Make sure that unmute button is hit. Make sure your computer's unmuted. I think your sound is down, brother. If you could hit the unmute button there on the upper right. Can you? I need you to hit the unmute button there, brother. Oh, you're muted. Hold on. Let's start from the top. Unmute yourself. Oh, wait, she's still silent, guys. You there?
Oh, forgive me. Laura, you're actually muted. Could you just in the top right of your window unmute yourself? It's just a button in the top right. Travis, you're actually...
All right, you get the point. Things are getting better. Things are getting better, but these are the challenges that we face in digital platforms when you're using sort of off-the-shelf Hangouts and Skype. You know, the thing is, we actually have been working with Google. Google's been a great partner of ours, and they can't stand watching this as well. When we sent this video to them, they couldn't even watch it because, you know, they want the tech. They want the technology to give way to the conversation. They want the technology to be so good that you don't notice the technology and that you can just foster the conversation. And there are times when this happens, and luckily we actually have, you know, non-traditional TV personality hosts that actually can drive this forward, and it's something that they're used to. But as the sort of guy that has to deal with all the studio infrastructure, I get yelled at a lot for that when I not necessarily can do anything about it. It's just the nature of the platform. But like I said, Google has actually been great with us, and we're actually going to be coming out with our own custom app that allows us to remote control their experiences and be able to mute them and unmute them ourselves from the control room. We're sort of working through that right now. But like I said, this is sort of in its infant stages. You know, this is 9 months old, and it's 12 hours a day. It's kind of a monster to basically run the whole thing. And now we have a little bit of breathing room, because 3 months after we launched, we had the election. And that was just insane. I think that during the election, some stats that we had from the election is that we had over like 200,000 concurrent users watching this. And this was a 3-month-old digital platform. So we had a huge amount of people watching us during the election. And maybe you can talk a little bit about some election stuff.
Well, the nice thing, I think, both that we're kind of similar to what the elections were, and also to what some disasters have shown us as well, is our outreach to find guests hasn't come from the traditional ways. It's come more from reaching out through social media, specifically Twitter. About half of our guests are actually coming and being found by the conversations that they're having in real time on Twitter. We reach out to them, our production staff does, and ask them to be part of the conversation of what's going on HuffPost Live. So it was during the election. I mean, you have a little bit of pre-planning because you know what the states are going to be, the battleground states that are still being contested. Those are the ones that people are talking about. It gives you a little bit of planning on where to look and who to look for. When real-time situations come up, it's a little bit more instant, where you're still trying to find people in that particular instance, but the person that has a friend in Boston might live in Michigan. And if they're still having the conversation about what's happening on, and them being able to get in touch with their family or their friend, that's still something that we can reach out to that person and be able to ask them to be part of the conversation. So it's definitely all of our production staff and our host are very technical savvy. They're very social media savvy, and they're all involved. Our hosts are actually producers too. None of them are just considered hosts because we don't hand them a script and tell them to read off of a teleprompter. They need to be doing the research. They need to know who the guests are going to be so that they can be prepared, because they're actually part of the conversation just as much as our guests are that are coming on air. And I think one of the things that Mike mentioned earlier when we found this special group of talent is one of my favorite things is that out of the over 300, I think it is, people that interviewed to be host, these 10 were all people that had the ability to throw punches as well as take them. And I think that's an important thing to be able to have. Everybody on HuffPost Live has an opinion, and our hosts are no different.
Yeah, we do about 30 to 40 hangouts a day, which is an incredible amount of people to wrangle.
That equals about 100 unique people joining us through Google Hangouts per day in a 12-hour day.
You just can't do that in traditional broadcast media. It's just, you have to be able to take the risks with using digital platforms to do that. Yeah, and as far as streaming goes and studio infrastructure, you know, we actually converted our studios in LA, and we built new studios in New York to accommodate this. And we have basically a studio with 3 sets where we don't have any commercial breaks. So we go from set to set to set. So there's this you know, choreography of camera work to be able to keep the show flowing. You know, and actually I'll show you during the day, because we basically because there's no commercial breaks, our control room is constantly working. You know, we have directors that you know, swap back and forth. We have 3 directors a day.
You know, we've known that this storm was possible since.
And that sort of keeps the flow going. It's a tricky thing to do for 12 hours a day. I don't know many people that are doing something quite like this. I guess if you want, we can sort of open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions about things.
Sorry, how long did you say the green rooms were open before the segment goes live?
So they're open as whenever a segment happens, whenever a segment is created in our dashboard, they're created. So if tomorrow there's a segment that's created, it literally can be 24 hours in advance, so you can engage with it.
And that's when you audition people to be on areas.
As soon as that green room's enabled, you're able to audition for the segment. You're able to start leaving comments for the segment. You're able to look at all the research articles that we have in the resource well.
Well, it's designed as a web platform. It's a platform for engagement. So until you know your living room becomes a lot more engaging, you know, maybe with your gaming consoles or some of your over-the-top box, so you can actually participate. We want people to engage with the platform. You know, we will send our stream to broadcast, and we're going to try to keep it as social as possible, sending our comments through on the TV platform or over the top boxes. But right now, it's really a platform for engagement. And for your first question, monetization, the strategy is VOD. So we produce over 100 clips a day. We send them up to the Huffington Post. They get monetized with pre-roll. And that's how.
So you said you're 12 hours now, your vision is 24 hours, and your vision. How do you decide on how long the segment might not be?
Well, it's as long as the conversation happens. We don't necessarily limit the conversation. So.
The conversation could be 12 hours long with one person?
Well, it's about, usually 20, 30 minutes is the sweet spot. But if there's a great conversation going on, we're not going to stop it.
And conversely, we're not going to continue one if it's not going well. That's why we don't have a published schedule of exactly this show is going to be on at this time, this one at this time, because we have an idea, we just aren't setting it in stone that we have to stick to that.
And if it's 24 hours, you'll add more hosts, or they'll take, and their roles might be adapted to how they engage?
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
So what do you see?
Well, I think that we're not going to go for a full-on 24-hour schedule. We'll probably go maybe 12, 16 hours, but we'll split it up between, time zones. So it's, yeah, exactly.
And you envision the hosts changing their roles, adapting, modifying the way they interact?
Well, we just want the hosts to foster conversation and keep the conversation going. And, they actually have opinions about things, and I don't think that that's going to change much. I think actually they do a great job at that right now. We might add more hosts, we might add more time zones and stuff like that.
What are your goals for the next 9 months?
I think that the goals for the next 9 months are to basically tweak our systems and create, so when we first launched, we developed our own content management system. We didn't go with a typical, newsroom system. So we want to continue on and refine the systems that we use, refine the studios that we use, and obviously get more videos out there that get more page views. Creating much more engaging content. Yeah.
So when it comes to create video content for video on demand, do you find this is the most efficient way to get return on investment?
It is. We can have a clip up within 10 minutes. And so if there's something that's, so what happens is, excuse me, we don't necessarily pitch segments that are, at the height. We try to nurture a topic. So we'll pitch a segment that maybe isn't getting as much traffic on Huffington Post or a platform, and we basically try to ride that up as opposed to riding it down. So that's sort of the way that the video content is created. Is they pick, they want to foster the video segments, and then if they get, if they do well, then great. But it's not just about that. It's about creating an engaging platform.
So I want to kind of make sure I'm clear on how people become on-air guests.
Sure.
So they're essentially auditioning for the Google Hangout. Is that correct?
So we have a custom little app right there, Be On Air. That's where they audition, and that video gets sent to our production team. Then Tim's team screens them.
We screen them on the Google Hangout.
Essentially curating people who want to be on air.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the labor involved in that? Like, what's the volume of stuff? And is it a needle in a haystack kind of thing where most of the people who apply simply would never make it on the air, and you're looking for the jewels in that?
Well, I don't know if you guys remember during that initial little clip that we played on what HuffPost Live was. There was an older lady in a house dress with the headphones on. Her name was Rogie, and I actually found her as a commenter on the HuffPost Gay Voices Facebook page, listing a comment on a topic that we were going to be talking about. Reached out to her. She wanted to be on. She came on. Now Rogie is a single gay lady who lives in rural New Mexico in a trailer, who is poor and just would never have a chance in the world of getting on any network news. Now that is a needle in a haystack, but that's what we're full of. We're full of finding people like that. And that's what people are wanting to be, because those are people that have a voice, that have always had the voice, but just haven't had the platform to show it. And so I think that's what we're providing them, is the platform to show it. So I think
how big is the team that makes that happen?
we have 100 people between LA and New York. I mean, it's not me. it's our entire staff is doing this work. And that is a good part of their day.
When you're recording this, because you're getting it up in 10 minutes, are you recording to the cloud and then just editing it?
We don't. We record we have a 1.5 petabyte SAN on both coasts, and we actually record it locally. We actually have DVR, so we do have HLS DVR, so we're able to link to that segment immediately with a DVR. Then we edit, highlight segment, and then we replace that in the background. So actually the segments are up instantaneously, but then the highlight reel of the segment gets replaced in the background like 10 to 20 minutes later.
Target that content for the different devices, like possibly different navigation, different look and feel?
Well, I mean, we have a multi-device sort of platform, and they're all designed differently, but there is an archive that it works across all platforms.
How are you linking the success of this to HuffPost as a general platform? Like, what are you using to measure your success of this, and how do you know that all the energy that you're putting into this is actually worth it and actually netting in an audience that's doing more than just connecting to you live every once in a while?
Well, I mean, I think that the numbers sort of are, we started out, we had 20 million, video views per month, and now we're up to, almost 60 million. So that's a measure of success, is the more people are watching the videos.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes into what it's a combination of a bunch of different factors, but it's the amount of people that are watching it live, it's the amount of people that are watching the VODs, it's the amount of traffic that having the videos on Huffington Post that we're not having to source out from other places, that we can provide our own content for, that are driving unique traffic to the .com side. All these factors kind of play into what our successes are, and so there's not one measure that we can just look at, there's a bunch of different ones. And I think all of them are moving in the direction that we want to see beyond our expectations at this point.
We also, we've had some recognition in the industry. We've, tonight actually are the Webby Awards. We won a Webby Award for, I think it was news and information, digital news and information. Mashable named us Media Innovator of 2012. So, the industry is noticing. And so there, that's another kind of measure.
Is the site customizable from the viewer's perspective? Like, let's say I just want to see the video and not all the other stuff. Can I drag widgets on and off?
Not at the moment, no. But you can, you can watch it full screen if you want. But nothing is necessarily, you can't really move things around.
You can customize it to full screen video, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It seems like you're only using primarily Google Hangouts, and I want to know why, as opposed to like Skype or another program.
Well, we use both. We primarily use Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts, you can have more than 3 people in a group chat, and truthfully, there's a technically, it sort of works for us. There's some more functionality and features to it, but we use whatever will work. If Google Hangouts isn't working that day for some reason or another, we will switch over to Skype.
And if we find the right guest that doesn't want to use Google Hangout or doesn't have the technology for that, we want that guest. We're not reliant upon using that technology to bring that guest on.
The technology to control the webcam to capture the video, is that flash-based?
The tech
for the beyond
yeah, that is flash-based.
Yes.
Yeah.
So on iOS devices?
No, you can do it on iOS. There is a
fallback.
Yeah, you can record
on
your
a
own.
Mac
On
or
an
on the
iPad.
phone. On the iPad, you need to use the app. On iPhone, you can't.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the app.
Okay. Do you ever pre-record interviews?
No. Yeah, everything's live.
The clips that you send up, are they just of the host or host and consumer or customer? The VOD clips that you send up that you were talking about using pre-roll and monetize, are they just of the host?
No, it's of everything. It's the entire segment, and it's usually highlights of that segment. All right, yeah.
What are you planning on doing next?
Like I mentioned earlier, we just want to refine everything and create a better platform for engagement. Cool. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.